knows, I'm Courtney and Amber's mom and a member of the board of directors. And I was asked to speak about next steps. Next steps to me, first thing came to mind was a journey. Where are we going? What's our next steps? Also, I think about it sometimes. I've run marathons in the past, and I know about those next steps that sometimes you feel like you can't go on, but you got to get to that finish line. You got to motivate yourself, you got to push yourself. And it takes commitment. And that's what Amber Reineck House, and hopefully all of you have, is commitment to seeing our goal of getting long-term recovery house for women in Livingston County. George also spoke about stepping stones and next steps in his speech. And you think about the journey someone going through addiction is on and the journey someone in recovery is on. I've seen Courtney speak several times, and she references her personal journey that she's on. So, of course, Amber Reineck House is on their journey. But we have a roadblock. We don't have our house. We're facing obstacles. We're facing moratoriums that really shouldn't be there. But we're not going to be discouraged. We're going to stay motivated. We're going to stay the course. And I get there are people in the community that are afraid. Rebecca spoke of fear of unknown, fear because they don't understand. They aren't educated about recovery housing. They aren't educated about addiction. And why should they be? If you're living your life day to day and you're not having that issue in your family or with your loved ones, you don't really take the time to figure out the facts or what's going on. I was one of those people. I didn't really understand addiction, yet I had a daughter that clearly was an addict. I was in the dark. There are things I just didn't know. I didn't feel compelled to know. I just figured, she's got a problem. It's, probably her choice, and she'll hit bottom, and then, she'll just figure it out, and life will go on. I was terribly wrong. No one wakes up and says, hey, I want my life to be a living hell. I want to break my mom's heart. I think I'll become an addict today. It doesn't work that way. I got educated really quick when I got that phone call that my daughter had died of an overdose. I never heard of fentanyl. I had no idea what that was. Tell you what, when you read it in your child's toxicology report from an autopsy, you find out really quick what this is all about. I'd never read an autopsy report in my life. I'm guessing a lot of people don't. I can tell you, you don't ever want to read an autopsy report of your child. It's graphic, it's impersonal, it's gory, as they dissect your child and describe to you in detail every organ from the size, the color, the weight. It's something that doesn't leave your head. Yeah, you get educated really quick when it hits home. I had no idea what her life must have been like. The anguish from day to day living with an addiction and not knowing how to escape that nightmare. The struggles day to day, the pain of wanting to have a normal life to be with your kids and not being able to do that. There are moments in our lives that impact us, that you replay over and over again in your head. Obviously, the death of a child is one of those things, but there was also another moment in my life that I keep replaying. I can't get it out of my head. It influences my thoughts, my passion for recovery, why the need to be there for people who are serious and need that support. That moment happened in this room 3 years ago. It was at my daughter's funeral luncheon. Just came here, people were returning from the service. And you're still kind of numb and you're just kind of taking everything all in and all the people who are there. But this I remember. After the luncheon, Courtney came to me and she said, "Mom, there's a guy over at this table over there that wants to speak with you." Okay. Kind of go with the flow. Sure. Couldn't imagine, I didn't know him. His name was Ryan. He desperately wanted me to come over there to his table at the funeral luncheon. He was her age. I recognized his name. I even recognized his pictures. I'd seen him in pictures with my daughter, but I never really met him. I didn't really know him, and here he was in a room filled with people at a funeral luncheon wanting to speak with me. And the first thing he said to me was, "I'm Amber's friend. I'm an addict, but I need you to know I've been clean. I've been clean 2 years, 3 weeks, 3 days. Maybe I don't have the numbers exact, but I do remember how significant and important it was for him to tell me he's been clean." And then he proceeded to tell me, "I've lost everything because of the stigma associated with it. My family has nothing to do with me. I've lost my friends. But I've been clean." Again, he repeated the number of days. He proceeded to tell me because of what he'd been through, he felt isolated. He felt alone, abandoned. But he kept going to his meetings. He kept the course. He kept doing the steps. And he said, "You know, because of everything I've been through and because of my addiction, I really don't like social situations. I find I'm just very uncomfortable anymore." He said, "Quite honestly, I even find it difficult to go to a grocery store." And I kind of paused and reflected on that, and I thought, wow. And here he is in a somewhat crowded room of people attending my daughter's funeral and luncheon. And I contemplated, what kind of courage did that take for him? What motivated him to come here and be in that situation that he willingly said he couldn't handle? And he said, "I need to show you something. This is why I called you over here." He said, "I had one friend left. One friend, and it was Amber." And he pulled out his cell phone and he handed it to me. He goes, "I want you to read these text messages." And he proceeded to scroll through several months of messages between him and my daughter Amber, right up till before she passed. And so I read a few of those messages back and forth. And there she was, giving him encouragement. "You can do this. You've got to stay clean, Ryan. You've got to do this. I believe in you. You can do this. I'm here for you. Stay strong." Pages and pages of that exchange of conversations. And all the while, she was struggling herself with addiction and couldn't find her way out. But there she was, his one friend that did not judge, that did not have stigma. He said it was her friendship that kept him clean all those years and months and days when nobody else was there for him. There was nothing else. And I thought to myself, nothing else? There's nothing else for you? Someone who is committed to recovery? And it was relying on those text messages that he at least had Amber. And I'm thinking, why is it so important he's sharing this with me? Was it so I could maybe understand what she was going through or how difficult it is? I was being educated at that moment of what life might be like for someone with addiction, what something inside you feels like when stigma surrounds you and people judge you and don't understand. And I replayed that over and over. And 3 years have gone by. And there are many days I stop and I rethink about that conversation in this room at Amber's funeral luncheon. And it motivates me. It tells me that there's so much that can be done to avoid the stigma. The next morning, Courtney called me. She said, "Mom, Ryan died last night of an overdose." I was numb, I was sad, and I kept revisiting our conversation of what he was trying to tell me. There should have been more for Ryan. There should have been more for support. And now he's joined the others that we held our candle for the people that are up here. Yes, our journey with Amber Reineck House is slow, and we're staying the course. And it's sometimes discouraging, but it doesn't compare. It doesn't even compare to the struggle of people who are faced with stigma, who are taking their sobriety seriously and not getting that support. We're committed to recovery. We're committed to being there for people. There has to be something more. They need a new start. They need a new group of friends. They need counseling. They need supportive services. Rebecca touched on some of that in her speech of why it's so critical. And they need that next step. They need a stepping stone to transition back into leading productive, sober lives in the community. They need housing. They need a safe place to land. They need something more. They can't do it alone. So what are our next steps? We're staying the course. We're going to battle the not in my backyard stigma. We're going to educate the misinformed. We're going to pursue the process and seek the zoning exception variance once they lift the moratorium. And yeah, there's no guarantee they'll even grant us our variance. Sometimes it's hard to be optimistic. And maybe Amber Reineck House won't be the beautiful house on Walnut Street, but I can guarantee you we're going to have a plan B or a plan C. We're not going away. And we're going to do it. We're going to do it for Amber. We're going to do it for Ryan. We're going to do it for Lizzie. We're going to do it for all the lives lost up here. We're going to do it for the 200 plus people a day that lose their lives to overdose. More importantly, we're going to do it for those that are on their recovery journey, taking their next steps and needing that next stepping stone. They deserve it. So what will your next steps be? I'm asking you to commit your resources, continue your donations, your time, and your voice to speak out, to educate, to be present when there's zoning hearings. This is important. We are passionate, and I want you to be passionate about it as well. One person can make a difference. I think of Amber and the difference she made for Ryan in his recovery. I know she didn't question whether it mattered or whether she could help him. She was only one person. She didn't question that. Perhaps Ryan didn't feel like there was a next step for him after Amber passed away. Think of what a room full of people can do together. Be refocused, be re-energized, and be ready for recovery in 2019. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the evening.